People say, what does it take to be happy? I say one word, progress. If you're not there yet, but you are starting to make some progress in your body, or progress on your relationship, or progress on your career, your finances, you're gonna feel good. I always tell people, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure, the ultimate failure. The most important thing first is if you're gonna succeed in business, you have to know who your ideal client is.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 would believe nation.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like 9 to 9. For my top 10, top 10, 9 to 9. This one's for my top 10.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because chances are you are the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more. And you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Tony Robbins, and my take on his top 10 rules for success. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1. Know your ideal client.
The most important thing first is if you're gonna succeed in business, you have to know who your ideal client is. Who is the client that is your ideal, that if you built your business on that, it would grow? If the economics of the economy dropped, they'd still buy from you. That's the person you want to cherish, you want to fall in love with. You don't want to fall in love with your product, you want to fall in love with your client. And you want to know more about them than anybody else. Because I always say life is the dance between what you desire most and what you fear most. So if you can expand your desires and break through your fears, you expand your life massively. So for the people that are really watching, I think the more you know about those needs, if you can do more for them than anybody else, then you go to the second piece, which is add more value than anyone in your industry. If you do more for others than anybody else, and you don't just do it for a day or a week or a month, you do it, like I always tell people, most people overestimate what they're gonna do in a year, but they underestimate what they can do in a decade or 2 or 3. If you do that year after year, the word spreads and you start to build a brand. And if you do that for a decade or more, you can start to actually dominate the industry. So you gotta know everything about them, you gotta add the value, and you gotta find an irresistible offer. Tom Shoe's irresistible offer, he took a product, quite frankly, the product's not very good at all, but the offer is really great. Now, if I buy and wear these crappy shoes, you'll get another pair and you'll give them to someone who doesn't have shoes, I'm in. And now a bunch of people, they're doing it with glasses and things of that nature. Or 99 cents on iTunes. I mean, people are getting everything for free. Why should I buy it? Better fidelity, easy, clear, but only 99 cents. That offer. Zappos, right? Tony Hsieh is a good friend of mine. He comes up and he joins the founders and they're living in this little house up in San Francisco and they're totally frustrated. We're spending all this money and we're trying to sell women's shoes online and it's not working. How come? Well, they got to try them on. And well, they aren't doing it because they don't want to spend the money on shipping it. And Tony Hsieh changes the offer. He says, look, we're going to let people order as many shoes as they want. We're going to pay for all the shipping. And if they don't like any of them, we can send them back and we pay the shipping back. Now, if you're the investor in the company, what do you say to that? Are you crazy? We're going to go bankrupt because you don't understand our ideal customer, these women. They have a different relationship to shoes than you and I do. Women say shoes equal happiness. A woman could put on one shoe, she's one woman. She changes shoes, she's another woman, right? And he said, they're gonna get these shoes and we're gonna pay to get them there. They're not gonna send them back 99% of the time because if they like the shoe, even if it doesn't fit, they'll convince themselves it'll fit in the future, right? And when I talk about this in like big seminars, women are laughing, raising their hand going, yeah, high five, and it's true. And he built a business he sold for $1.2 billion and he still runs it because he wasn't doing it for the money. He loved building the culture and doing this, but he came up with that irresistible offer. So know more about them, make sure you add value massively, have an irresistible offer. It'd be 3 things I'd start with. And if I gave you a 4th one, throw it in, you better know your numbers, right? I do these boot camps and I bring in a guy that's just a genius who gives them like an MBA in 5 hours. It sounds like an exaggeration, but it's not. He's done billions of dollars of the deals and he teaches them how to know their numbers because most entrepreneurs, that's not their skill. They're good at marketing or creating a product or innovating or selling or whatever. But the financials is why most people die because you don't want an accountant, you need a CFO. And yet when you're a small company, you can't afford a CFO because they're like, $400,000. What's different about a CFO than an accountant? An accountant just puts the numbers in the right columns. He'll tell you, oh, you have this much profit, and you go, yay, and then you find out at the end of the year, there was no cash. Profit and cash are not the same thing, and you go, oh my God, what am I gonna do? So understanding your numbers and understanding that profit is a theory, right? You can have big profit and no cash. You have to understand how that works, and you gotta just take the time to get that skill so that numbers become intelligence. Because if you have the right numbers and you know what they mean, Now you can make better decisions. You make better decisions, you're going to win.
Rule number 2, learn to change your state.
In the psychological realm, everyone's going to measure themselves differently because everyone values things differently. Some people value success or significance. Some people value love more. Some value just basic levels of certainty. So when I look at the specific metrics, I really look at metrics of what are the things that need to be measured to know if your life is going to work or not. So I look at it as our whole lives are guided moment to moment by the state we're in. Learning how to change your state, not bullshit, not fake, but to go from pissed off, frustrated, freaked out to back in your center or creative or determined or something that's going to move you forward. It's going to create a better quality of life for you and others. That's a critical skill set.
Rule number 3, choose what you focus on wisely.
The most powerful decision we make, and most of us don't make it consciously, is what are we going to focus on? We don't focus on everything. We focus on a small number of things, and that's what we experience in life. Because you could be focusing right now on the blood rushing through your left ear or the touch of your clothes against your skin, but you don't. Most of what your brain does is distort, delete, and generalize to make life simple. And the problem is when you distort, delete, and generalize, you miss a lot of your life. And focus, write down, equals feeling. Whatever you focus on, you're going to feel, even if it's not true. If I asked you, there are 2 things you could focus on, what you have or what's missing. Which one do you spend more time focusing on? If your brain is constantly focusing on what's missing, how can you ever sustain happiness no matter how successful you become? It is impossible. What happens when you focus on what you have? You feel alive. You feel no scarcity. You feel joy. How many of you have lots of things in your life that if you focused on it, you could feel grateful for, you could feel excited about? How many got lots of things like this now? Say I. But it doesn't exist unless you focus on it. And we all have patterns of focus. Do you tend to focus more on what you can control or what you can't control, what's outside your control? What is someone going to feel is constantly focused on what's missing and what they can't control? Sad, frustrated, angry, depressed? So why are they still depressed? Because they're still focusing on what's missing. And they're focused on what they can't control. And I'll add one more. Do you tend to focus more on things from the past, the present, or the future? We all do all 3. But if you're going to spend your predominant time and you want enjoyment, it's the present. If you want to create a great life, it's the future. So it's a balance between the present and future.
Rule number 4, give back.
People say, what does it take to be happy? I say one word, progress. If you're not there yet, but you are starting to make some progress in your body, or progress on your relationship, or progress on your career, your finances, you're going to feel good. And when you achieve it, how long do you feel good for? Not very long, because when you achieve it, you stop growing. You kind of celebrate. Nothing wrong with that. But how long after you get that thing you wanted are you happy? A week, a month, a year? Almost never a year. Yeah. It's a short time. And the reason is we're not supposed to just sit there at the table of success and celebrate for years. We need to grow to feel alive. And everything in the universe grows or it dies. But when we grow, we have something to give. And when we give, people often say human beings are selfish. I've been selfish. I'm sure you've been at times, but that's not my core and it's not anybody's. And I'll prove it to you. When you're having, all of you at home and all of you here, when you have something great in your life that happens, you learn something, you experience something beautiful, what's the first thing you want to do?
Tell people.
Share somebody what you love. Why? Because when you share with it, it expands. See, pleasure is something coming in from the outside. Happiness is something inside you that you share. Ooh. And happiness is what people really want. Pleasure, you can get pleasure from alcohol or sex or anything, but some people, it's all about me. When you're taking what's inside yourself because you've grown and you're giving to someone you love, your children, a friend, a girlfriend, boyfriend, a coworker, anybody, there's an aliveness you can't feel by yourself. There's only so much pleasure you can feel. Happiness and joy comes when that expansion is shared.
Also, if you want to have more self-confidence and self-belief, I've designed a special free training to help you get it, where every day for the next 254 days, I will send you a link to an unlisted video to your email to every day shift your confidence and self-belief forward. The science says it can take up to 254 days of consecutive action to make a habit stick. And I want you to get the habit of self-confidence and self-belief. The link to join absolutely for free is in the description below.
If you want to change your life, my friends, you got to change your physiology and you got to change your focus. My very first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I want to get my head right. I do this thing called priming. Today, what creates marketing is when you don't just market, but you add value to people.
Rule number 5, know when to diversify.
In the early stages of myself as an entrepreneur, I started all these companies from scratch. And then I met a gentleman, the gentleman started MTV, and we had this really cool conversation. He said, you know, Tony, it took me a decade and a half to really build up MTV. And he said, and then I built another company, and he said, Tony, you know what I realized? It takes like 7 years, that was his number in his head, on average, to go from scratch to build something that's really stable and strong and so forth. And he goes, I realized there's only so many 7-year cycles in my body. And he said, but if I went to a company that already has been around for 7, 10, 20 years, and I bring my ability, my vision, my ability to grow that business, my ability to inspire the people, my ability to produce resourcefulness, then I get a multiplied effect. And he goes, Tony, you're the best in the world at what you do, but damn, you work your tail off. And so he asked me if I'd come speak. One of the companies he took over was Century 21 Real Estate. Yep. And he said, why haven't you ever spoken for us? I said, because your company asked me over and over, but they're cheap. They want to pay me $100,000 and my fee's $250,000. He goes, we'll pay the $250,000. I said, no, for you, I'll do it for free. Because he's a friend and I'm learning from him. So I came and did the speech, and afterwards he sat me back down and he goes, Tony, there are 10,000 people here. He says, I know like all my financial guys, they all look to you, but you're like a rock star from middle America. These people in gold jackets selling real estate. He goes, do you know how much our business increased in those 4 months? And I don't remember the exact number. It was like 22 or 23% or something. He goes, do you know how much money you made me? And you got nothing. He said, let me give you some advice. Go find people that have some form of momentum that you can turn it around and get a piece of that. And that's how I changed. So what I looked for were businesses that I felt tremendous emotional connection to because I felt they'd touch people's lives in some way. And I looked for partners that were geniuses, but where I could bring my own genius to it, where 1 + 1 = 5, or at least 3, not 2. And by doing that, I got pieces of these different companies, and then it just grew and grew and grew and grew. So I'm in virtual reality. I have a company called NextVR. My partners are geniuses, and we just locked down the exclusive for the NBA. So instead of Monday Night Football, we have Tuesday Night NBA, and you literally, it's like you're on the court, you can look and feels like you can reach out and touch LeBron. It's mind-boggling, and there's no cords or computer. It's all done off your phone with an app. It's mind-boggling.
Wow.
We also have the exclusive for Live Nation for all concerts. So you can be right there next to Jay-Z or Beyonce, like you feel like you can touch them, right? I have a company that's #1 guy in stem cells in the world. I have a company that does genetics, that's just genius. I've got companies that are in the education space. I bought Adweek with a group of partners. I have my financial companies. So the diversity I have is mind-boggling, but that's also the secret to investing. If you got all your eggs in one basket and there's a problem, you need to make sure you run your business really successful, give it your all, not start 20 of them. But once that business really is strong and your investments are strong, then you can build a second one. Most people, they build a business and then it's not going as well as they want, so I start another business because it feels more exciting. And it's like you have one child you're not taking care of, so let's have a second child and a third child, and it just doesn't work. But the diversity of it also makes me excited. So I manage 12 of them actively. The others, I have such great partners. Like, I own the Major League Soccer new franchise in LA. I'm a partner in that. It's called the LA Football Club. But my partner is Peter Guber, who owns the LA Dodgers and owns the Golden State Warriors, and about as smart a human as you could ever have in the sports field. And then I bought in the esports field. It's mind-boggling. We fill whole stadiums now with people watching people play video games. So I bought Team Liquid, which with my partners, with Peter and everyone else, and so, the opportunities are just amazing because I'm partnering with people who have skills that are the best in the world, and I'm bringing mine. And when you combine them, you get a greater impact.
Rule number 6, understand the basic human needs.
Everyone has different goals and dreams and desires, but as I traveled around the world to 100 countries, I started going, holy shit, I'm seeing the same problems. What's underneath it? I began to see that there are these same 6 human needs that we all have, the same needs. We all have a need for certainty, that we can avoid pain and we can have some pleasure, some comfort. We all need uncertainty. Mm-hmm. We need variety, or we feel dead inside. If you're totally certain, you're bored. If you have total variety, you're like freak out. And it's not a balance. It's learning which of these you need more as a person. Everyone's developed a different set of values in that area. The need for significance, to feel unique, special, important, the need to feel loved, the need to grow, and the need to contribute. Some people value certainty at the top of their list. That's their center of their target. I don't want to do anything unless I know it's going to work. I don't want to do anything unless it's the same. If you change anything, they freak out. If certainty is the #1 thing on your list, everyone has the same needs, but if it's #1, I know how your life's going to be. I can predict the direction of your life and therefore the destination to some extent. If you're driven by love first, you want certainty too, but love is higher, you're going to behave very differently than if you're driven by significance. I have to be the one. Your experience in business was trying to be significant by making enough money and being successful enough that you would feel what you really want, which is that feeling of love, what you call, what would you call it? Camaraderie. Thank you, camaraderie. So that feeling of, it's really love. It's the friendship, it's camaraderie, it's that component. That's what really drives you. Sure. And so you figure out how to organize your life where that's the driving force, and now look what you've done. You've flourished and everyone around you is flourishing. So I look to see which of those needs are the top 2 on your list because they control your life.
Yep.
The 2 that most people have, 90% of the planet, if you said, of all these needs, which one do you really focus on most day to day? Everybody wants love, but what do you focus on? Most people focus on being significant. We live in a Facebook world where people fake their life, put new filters, make it look different than it really is, tell stories that, are totally full of it to make themselves look good. Because we live in this kind of false world where significance is more important than love.
Right.
And it separates us. And the other one that we see most often is certainty. People want to be certain before they can do something. You couldn't have started a business like you had if you were absolutely certain before you started. You can never build a business with that. You can never build a great relationship because if it's based on certainty, then everybody's got to stay the same and never change, which means you're never going to grow, which means you're going to be miserable.
Right.
So my metrics are, I want to find out what's driving you. And I want to see, is it healthy or unhealthy? You can have 2 people be driven by significance though, and do it with a different set of rules. That's the second piece I measure. The beliefs or rules of how to fulfill that target. So Osama bin Laden, certainty driven, love driven, contribution driven, significance driven, not hard to figure out. On a 0 to 10, he was a 10 for significance. He was the, whatever, I'm making the number up, I think he was like the 27th child of his father, 22nd child. Most people don't know that. Totally insignificant, not skilled, took his dad's money, went over to Afghanistan, and suddenly, because he had money, he became significant. And he wasn't even part of that movement at that stage. It shaped him. So what does he do? He's gonna figure out, his model of the world is, I'm significant if I destroy you, right? On that same day of 9/11, there were men and women in the fire department, police department, that were also driven by significance and contribution. And they went into that building knowing they're likely gonna die to save a stranger. Both people driven have a significant life. One is by taking life, one is by giving their own life. So once you understand the metrics, using your language, of what's driving you, and then the rules or beliefs of what does it take for you to feel loved, it's different for everybody. What does it take for you to feel certain? Some people need $1 billion, some people just need to trust God.
Rule number 7, find the balance.
Connection, right? And versus significance. I want to be the best, so I got to be different, but I want to be in community with you. I want to be close to you.
I want love and I want connection, but see what most people like, you see this in great actors or great entertainers, they'll come to me and in the beginning they work so hard to be significant, to be unique, to be special, to be important. What they really wanted was love. But now people stop on the street and they'll say to me, they don't even know who I am. They just want my time. They just want this. They want a picture. They don't respect my family. They don't respect it. You'll hear them so upset. What they wanted was the love. But see, we can have both. But the more significant I am, the more unique I am, the more separate I am from you. The more connected I am, then some people go, yeah, but where am I? Where am I special? So finding that balance between the two is what makes people feel alive. And we can meet all these needs in positive ways or negative ways. You can get significance by tearing other people down. Oh, they're lucky, they don't care, they took advantage of somebody. You don't know anything about them. You see people do that with famous people all the time. Why are they tearing them down? Because if I don't feel good about myself, if I can make you smaller, I look like I'm moving up. But you're not, and it doesn't work. But if you do things where you significantly love someone, if you care for someone, you're the most significant person in life. If you try to prove you're significant, then you have kind of the Trump effect. Even people that like him will say, sometimes he can push people aside because he's telling everybody how special he is. I'm not making a political statement. I'm saying that gets in the way of relationship. If we're gonna connect, we gotta not make ourselves significant. We gotta find out what's significant in the other person and honor it.
Rule number 8, maximize your business.
When I was 32, 33, maybe 34, somewhere in that range, I was really frustrated because I love what I do for a living. Its emotional rewards are gigantic, but it's not a business that has a great deal of opportunity for maximizing profit because this is a low margin business. And I didn't get into it saying, what's the best business to get in? It's just, I'm an artist. I want to help people change their lives. This is my mission. So, we were in the 9-10% margin, and it doesn't take much of a challenge when your margin's that small to have a real challenge in your business. So I called a group of billionaire friends of mine that I've coached over the years, and I always want to be the giver. I never asked for anything, but I said to them, look, I have these 7 or 8 opportunities that are being put in front of me that look incredible. I still want to run my core business, but I'd love to get your coaching. I've coached you guys. Would you be willing to coach me just for a couple hours? So I brought them all here in New York, had this incredible meeting. I'll never forget. And I decided I wanted to add value, so I introduced them to each other. They all knew of each other. They're all kings of titans of business. Some were friends. And then I said, so let me share you the good, the bad, the ugly of my story. And so I told them my entrepreneurial story from the very beginning, no money, the ups and downs, the near-death experiences. And I was watching their eyes get this big because a lot of them, they didn't start businesses like that, right? Some of them started businesses by getting $1 billion loan, one guy, right? He was able to do because it's financial backing. And so I could see them getting more and more tense. And long story short, at the end, they're like, stop. You shouldn't do any of these opportunities. They're all wonderful opportunities. You got to go back and maximize your business. You haven't maximized your business. And one of the guys had just been to one of my seminars, my Unleash the Power Within seminar, and he told me, came up to me and said, Tony, it's the most incredible thing I've ever done in my life. He goes, Tony, you work so hard. You're on stage 12, 14 hours a day. I don't know how you hold people's attention. People won't sit for a 2-hour movie, 3-hour movie. And you got people, so you're never going to want to do this when you're like 42. You know, because I was like 32. Same guy, 3 weeks later goes, you're not working hard enough on your business. I'm like, what the hell, right? And what it was they all reacted because they're used to a different type of business. And one of the guys afterwards says, hey, and I was near tears because I walked in thinking I'm the greatest business opportunities in the world. And I walked back feeling like I'm a piece of you know what, right? And one of the guys, a billionaire, says to me, he goes, hey, Tony, where are you staying? I said, I'm at the Four Seasons. He goes, oh, I'm staying there too. It's 3 blocks away. Can I walk with you? I want to get your advice on something. I thought, who, me? Dumb F? I'm the one you want this advice from, right? And he says to me, I'll never forget, he goes, Tony, he owned Fruit of the Loom underwear company. He goes, I got an offer. It make me about $1.9 billion. So I gotta decide, do I sell the company? Do I build it up bigger and then sell it? Or do I keep it for my son? And I said, Bill, I said, I love you to death. I said, you already know the answer. You want me to confirm it for you. Let's be honest. I said, first of all, if you sell the company now and get $1.8 billion, $1.9 billion more, it's not gonna change your life one iota. You have the planes, the cars, the homes, all that stuff, plenty of cash. It's not gonna change your life. But if you sell when the business is not at its peak, you'll resent yourself later on. You'll be mad because you're a guy that loves to maximize. He goes, oh, you're so right. And I said, keeping it for your son? He's 5, right? Does he want to be the underwear king? I don't think so. I said, go build it a little bit more to the level you know it is and then sell it, right? And he goes, oh my God, that's so brilliant, so great. But what I got out of this conversation that changed my life was I hated it. I felt they didn't understand, and they didn't understand a bunch. But I said, there's got to be some truth in there. And then I saw this story about this guy who spent, I think it was 17 years looking for this Spanish galleon. His name was Mel, I'm blanking on the last name, but it was very famous in the 1990s, 80s. And he literally made no money, found nothing. Like 16 years into it, he had to convince people to give him more money. One of his members of his crew died. It was the most brutal approach. How could you possibly keep going out there looking for treasure and not finding it for 5 years and not give up, or 10, 16, I think he went 18 if I remember correctly. And he found $500 million worth of gold. So I asked myself a question. I said, what would make a guy go 16, 17, 18 years with no evidence of success and keep doing it and convince people to give him money and keep going, working 7-day weeks? He'd have to believe something different than other people. What would he have to believe? And I thought first he'd have to believe the treasure's there. I didn't believe the treasure was in my business. So you didn't find it, right? Second, you'd have to believe I will find it. And third, to go that many years, you'd have to believe it's worth it. And I shifted those 3 beliefs in my business. And once I committed completely to that business and nothing else, I grew that business like crazy, and I ended up selling half that business for $200 million, the business that looked like it would never make anything. Oh, wow. When I did that, I said, now I'm a successful entrepreneur. Now I'll take on some other companies because I'm not BSing myself. I've really built it. This idea you're gonna go build 9 companies, nice ego stroke, no way you can give them the focus that you need. But today, I can do more with my pinky than I used to be able to do working 20-hour days because I know more people, I have more contacts, I have more strategy, I have more tools. And so you've got to make sure you maximize something and really make a real business. You want to know your real test? Could you sell the business tomorrow for a significant multiple? If not, don't start another business. Or get rid of this business, sell it, and start something fresh. But most people are always looking for what's easier, and it always looks easier. What you really want to do is maximize the business you're in.
Rule number 9, change your story.
if you want a breakthrough, not just a little change, you can change laterally. You can go from being pissed off to frustrated.
Right.
Doesn't help you much, right? But if you really want to change, most people are trying to change. Say you want to lose weight, and they want to make money. They go, how do I do it? They look for the strategy. But I'd like all three of you to think of 3 S's. Strategy is where most people go first. Like, how do I do it? But how hard is it really truly to be fit and have energy? It's not that complex. It's not like reserved for the 1% or expensive to learn. You have to interrupt, you have to hide from the answers to those things. The real problem is the second S, story. See, the reason the person is making progress, they may not know what to do. Sometimes that's true. But some people know what to do and they don't do what they know. Yeah. That's most people.
Yes.
And so why? They have a story that says, it's a set of beliefs they tell themselves over and again. I've tried everything. Or if they're single, all the good ones are gone. Whatever the story is. And if you tell yourself a story over and over again, Hitler used to say, tell a story big enough, loud enough, long enough, people believe you. Well, we're Hitler to ourselves. We convince ourselves. The thing we really need though is, you always come up with a lousy story when you're in a lousy state.
Yes.
And so the number one thing I show people to do is how to change their emotional state. When you're feeling tired or frustrated, when you learn how to change your body so that you really feel excited and isn't fake, when you learn how to change your biochemistry, which is what I teach people to do. For example, when you're in love, when you're upset with someone, do you ever notice how you can now remember everything that they've ever done that ever upset you? Right? Yes. And when you're in love, when you're totally in love, everybody make the sound of being in love. Try it. Oh, it's been a while for some of you, clearly. Let's try it again. Out of your mind in love, you can't stop thinking about the person. Make the sound how that feels. Go for it, everybody. I will work on that. But when you're in love, what's wrong with life? What's wrong with anything? When you're in love, we have no money. Who cares? We're in love. Right? So your emotional state controls the story you have about your life, and then your story determines whether you find a strategy, or even if you know the strategy, whether you really do it or not. When people say I tried, what they're really telling me is I have a story that says I should try this, but it's really not going to work. So I give it a half-reared attempt and it didn't work, and now I can tell people I tried. What you really got to do is learn to change your emotion, your state, change your story, and then you can find the strategy, or you can make the strategy to work.
And rule number 10, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is have fun.
So what do you want to do? You want to thumb wrestle?
I want to see you do your move, if you can show.
Oh, no.
You open to it? No. Okay, let's thumb wrestle.
It's just totally artificial.
Let's thumb
wrestle. It's like me talking about passion, right? I said don't do it if you're not passionate. I'm not a passionate thumb wrestle, but how do we do this?
So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, I declare thumb war. Okay, have you ever done this before?
No, go for it.
Okay.
Oh, we just do it?
You got to get my thumb down. You got to hold it for 3 seconds.
Okay.
You got big hands.
Okay, this is going to go on for 20 minutes?
Oh, you got me.
I think you gave it to me. You gave it to me too easily.
Now I've got a very special bonus clip that I think you're going to enjoy. But before that, it's time for the question of the day. I want to know, what was your single biggest takeaway from this video and your plan of action for the next week? When you get motivated, inspired, you have a 35% chance of following through. But when you get motivated, inspired, and you create a plan of action, you have a over 90% chance of following through. And when you share it with other people, it jumps to 95% chance. Your likelihood of following through. And so I want that to be you from this video. We don't just watch videos here, Believe Nation. We do something. We take action. So I want to know your single biggest takeaway from this video and your plan of action for the next week. Leave it down in the comments below because I want to celebrate you.
An extraordinary life is life on your terms, and there's 2 parts. Part 1 to have an extraordinary life is mastering the skill of the science of achievement. How do I take what I envision and make it real? And how do I do that quicker, faster, better, easier? The ability to manifest what you come up with and make it real, like you've done with your company, that's a skill set. I spend an unbelievable amount of time helping people do it faster, quicker, better, showing them the shortcuts, teaching them the strategies, modeling what works so you can save yourself a decade. But I would submit to you that having done this for 38 years with, 50 million people at this stage, I can tell you that the science of achievement, there are a lot of people that are damn good at that, and they still don't have an extraordinary life. They have an extraordinary life. You see it as extraordinary, but I get the phone call from the multi-billionaire who tells me he wants to do this thing on his business, but what he really find out is he's miserable as hell, and he's hoping somehow I'm going to rub off on him on that side too. And so I give him what he asked for, the change in his business, but I also give him what he needs, which is the change inside of him. So the second skill is the art of fulfillment. If you want an extraordinary life, you can't just achieve, you gotta be fulfilled. As simplistic as that sounds, but it's an art. It's not a science. It's a science to making money, come on. any age, any color, any background, any gender. If you do these things, you'll have an abundance of money. You do these things, you're gonna have too much month at the end of the money. You're gonna have financial stress, right? Body. Everyone's biochemically different, but you and I both know there's fundamental rules, laws. There's a science to the body. You violate that science, you're gonna have disease, you're gonna have low energy. You align with that, you're gonna have an abundance of energy. It's gonna affect everything in your life. It's a science. Fulfillment's not like that. Fulfillment is as different as our human beings. You wanna know what God or the universe likes? Look at the jungle, look at the forest.
Right.
It's diverse, right? So most people think, well, I wanna get that because they've been modeling somebody else, and that might work on how to achieve something. It'll never work for what to fulfill you. How many people you know, like you, got what you thought you wanted and you weren't fulfilled?
Right.
And that, I always tell people, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. The ultimate failure. Because if you go at something and you fail and you're an achiever, you don't fail. You go, I learned something, I'll just try something else. I'm gonna still get there. But when you succeed and you're not happy, you're technically screwed. It's just like, what are you gonna do? So a perfect example of this, I mentioned in the seminar you were there because it hit me about a year and a month ago, we lost what I consider a national treasure, Robin Williams. And I asked people, how many of you love Robin Williams? Everybody raised their hand all around the world, right? He made people laugh, people were touched by him. So how good was he at the science of achievement? I mean, he wanted to be a great comedian and make the whole world laugh, he did. He wanted to have his own TV show, he did. He wanted the #1 show, he did it. He wanted to make movies, he did. He wanted to have an Academy Award for not being funny. Dramatic, and he did it, right?
He did it, yeah.
He said he wanted a beautiful family. He achieved everything, and he hung himself.
That's crazy.
And I know recently someone's saying, well, you know, he had dementia, he had drug abuse, he had alcohol abuse through most of his life because he made everybody happy but whom?
Himself.
That's the ultimate failure. So if I had no other message to offer your viewers, and you let me give it to them right now, I'll tell you what I believe. I believe our lives are controlled by one force, decisions. I certainly believe in force greater than myself, call it God if you will, grace, whatever you want to call it, the universe. But I also believe it gives us choices. And the decisions we make control us much more than the conditions we meet. It's not the conditions, it's your decisions. Decisions of what to believe, decisions of what to do, decisions of what to give. I say to people, think about, you know, look back 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 15 years ago, and think of a decision you made that if you would have made a different decision, you'd have a totally different life today. Better or worse, I don't know, but totally different.
Right.
In your case, if you'd stayed doing what you're doing, you'd have a lot of money and still been miserable, right? You know, and probably your great lady over here would be feeling miserable because she loves you so much and she'd be feeling your misery, wanting to figure out what to do. But you made that decision.
Right.
The most important decision you can make above any on the face of the earth is deciding that no matter what happens in your life, no matter what happens, you're gonna live in a beautiful state. And what the hell does that mean? It means that you're not gonna suffer. It means a beautiful state is that you're gonna be happy, but that's only one. Or you're gonna feel creative, or you're gonna be passionate, or you're gonna be in awe of something, or you're gonna feel love. Any state that's a beautiful state is really the core essence of who you are without fear, right? All of our suffering as human beings, and I deal with people all the time. I mentioned to you off camera, 2 people I coached yesterday. One's a presidential candidate, and the other one is a rap superstar, right? Both in the same day. And without naming any names, people that have everything, by your point of view, most people's point of view, they have the fame and they have the love and millions of people love them and they have great economics, financial freedom, and they have homes and they have the fashion, they have everything. They're the I can't tell you how many of them are miserable.
Right.
The majority are miserable. I'm not bullshitting. I'm the one who gets the phone call from the vast majority. When I say miserable, they're so used to it, some of them don't even realize they're miserable,
Right.
but most do. They get in a place where it's like, how do I keep this up? How do I keep outdoing myself? How do I, I built these 32 companies, how to keep all 32 going and make them all grow every single year. And that's not how life is, right?
Right.
And then they worry about what will people think, what will they do? So the decision to say, I am not gonna suffer, that if suffering arises, pain's one thing, suffering's another. Suffering is when you're like, I'll give you an example. A friend of mine is a very famous Indian industrialist and billionaire guy. And he just recently took a sport in India that's been around 2,000 years that almost every village child plays, and he turned it into a professional sport. No one had ever made a professional sport 2 years ago. He invested, I don't know, I'm making the number up, $20 million in it. In 2 years, the sport is so successful in India that 500 million people watched the finals.
That's amazing.
2 months ago. 500 million people, right? So 500 million, that's how it is in India. And people are saying this is going to be as big as, for them, cricket is the ultimate thing, right? The biggest cricket. So his team valuation, I'm making the number up, I think it's gone to like $500 million in 2 years from, $25 million. And his team is number 2 in the whole world, right? Wow. He's got these great players. So I'm with him, and he gets a phone call. And he's just got done telling me about this great success and where it is and how proud he is and how everyone goes to the games and people are so thrilled and it's just become this movement in India and he created, he's so proud of it. And he gets this phone call, and the phone call is from his management team telling him that one of his competitors has just offered 4 times as much money as he was offering to his top 3 athletes who are the core of his whole team. And of course they all took them, right? And he was so angry. He was like, I can't even believe this. These guys were working in shops, and I brought them here, and I made them a star on national television, and they have no loyalty to me. And he's suffering. And the way you suffer is you focus on yourself. Right. Suffering comes when we obsess about ourselves, what we're getting or not getting, what we should have done, what others should have done for us. It's the me game. Right. You, my dear friend, and I say this with no blowing smoke, your primary core is a giver, which is why you're prospering. You're not the me. You're like, how do I give more, do more, share more, create more? How do we do a better job for our clients? How do we do a better job for our internal customers who work with us, our partners? Your entire life is that. That's why you're prospering. And you're not feeling suffering. But when you do suffer, and I promise you do, you correct me if I'm wrong, it'll because you're worrying about something in the future. How's this going to happen? Will this come together? Suffering can be worry, it could be anger, it can be frustration. It's anything that takes you out of a beautiful state. And here's what people don't get. You can end suffering by stop focusing on yourself and focus on something you want to serve greater than yourself. Your children, your wife, your mission, your life. You can get out of it in an instant because the nature of the human mind is to constantly compare things. Your mind, your brain is a 2 million year old device, and it is not designed to make you happy. It's designed to make you survive. Right. And that's why it's always looking for what's wrong. But it used to be what's wrong, a saber-toothed tiger, so I can protect myself. Now people are worried about what people think about them, or do they have enough money when 2/3 of the planet lives on $2 a day, and you're making $38,000, you're rich. The poorest of the poor in our country are considered rich. I'm not saying they should stay that way. Right. But you can only build on success. And so my view is, if you're watching, if you're listening to this, my goal would have you consider something. Life is short. We don't know how short it's going to be. But if you only had a week to live, I bet you wouldn't allow yourself to suffer over a little crap that makes you crazy normally. I think you would probably spend time with those you love. You would do what you love. You'd take awe in a sunset. You'd smell the air. You would take in everything in those final moments that you possibly do. So my thing is, why wait? Right. Why wait? Why not just decide that if I start to suffer, I know the solution, because suffering is me obsessing about me. You might say, it's not me, I'm worried about my kids because they're not doing well. No, you're worried that you haven't done enough for your kids. It's about you still, right? Yes. You're worried about what was done or what you should have done or what shouldn't have done. And you can end that in an instant by becoming aware of it and saying, I have made the most important decision of all. Right. I'm gonna live in a beautiful state. Because here's what's gonna happen. Anybody watching, you may lose a family member, you probably will. Somebody may get cancer. Your business the government might change the rules. They might change things radically that you can't even do anything about it. You might go bankrupt. You might get divorced. I'm not saying anybody will, but no one knows what's going to really happen in your life. Life's full of uncertainty, but here's what you can know. You can decide no matter what happens, you could have a great time. If somebody like Viktor Frankl can be locked up in Auschwitz and come out of that and experience finding joy in the middle of Auschwitz, then human beings have a capacity they've undersold themselves on. We think that the outside world determines how we feel. If people have to behave a certain way, if your husband or your wife or your kids or your coworkers or whoever, your boss, has to behave a certain way for you to be happy, and if they don't, you're unhappy, then you're always going to be unhappy, because the more people around you, the more they're going to change that, because they're all human, right? And if you have to be a certain way to be happy, you're going to violate it too. So my invitation is, as great as it is to achieve, more important to enjoy.
Right.
And if you can enjoy every moment in that state, when you're feeling loving and playful and passionate and curious and awe, you treat other people 100 times better than when you're feeling frustrated, pissed off, overwhelmed, worried, stressed, or feeling sorry for yourself.
Right.
You're going to be a better parent. You're going to be a better lover. You're going to be a better business person. You're going to have a better life. So my soliloquy is decide today. And actually say, what if I cut it off? What if I said, I'm not willing to settle and I'm just gonna live in a beautiful state? Doesn't mean you won't feel bad, it doesn't mean you won't stay there. You instantly change. That's doable. I'm on a mission to help people end suffering.
If you want 10 more amazing rules from Tony Robbins, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
I think greatness is somebody who just will not settle and finds a way to do, be, share, and create in life what they want. I always tell people, know not only what you want, but why you want it. I know this is simplistic, but